I've had some changes in my life since flying in space and things that made me see my own mortality.
When you've flown 5 missions into space, spent a year living in Russia and carried the name Taco since your Navy fighter pilot days, you collect a few stories.
Heaven for you would be the ability to fly.
But Kenneth Taco Cockrell's story isn't just about spaceflight or call signs. It's about a man who's faced risk, regret, and even death, and somehow come out smiling.
We have a struggle putting unknowable things into human concept.
I'm in Houston, Texas, to discover how someone whose work is grounded in science is deeply entrenched in the divine, and what would an astronaut order for his last meal? Food defines us, but every feast must come to an end. When facing mortality, life's big questions are served.
This is Last Meal, where I prepare the dish my guest would want if it were their last.
Tell me about where we are.
We're in Chelsea Wine Bar, and it's owned by a friend of mine. We discovered the common thing is that we both lived in Australia for some period of time. And he's the most gracious host and makes you keep wanting to come back. A guy named George Abbey kind of held court here.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to have an audience with George, which many people did desire, this is where you came.
Yep. And so it's become a magnet for astronauts. There
are quite a few.
Of which you are one.
I think so. It was a while ago.
If memory serves.
If memory does.
Before we get into chatting about everything, I'm going to reveal your last meal and we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
So, Kenneth Taco Cockrell, your last meal is?
Beautiful is what it is.
Now, you have requested Tex-Mex, but specifically enchiladas, tamales, and Mexican rice and beans. Tell me why you went with these 3 elements of Tex-Mex.
Oh, well, I think the bigger story is why I went with Tex-Mex in the first place.
Yeah, tell me about that.
And that is because when I was growing up as a young child, it was in a small town in central Texas. But my mother had relatives in Austin. So we would go to Austin quite often. It's only 60 miles away. And in Austin, we didn't have a restaurant in Rockdale, the town that I lived in. But when we went to Austin, for some reason, my parents liked Tex-Mex. And so every time we went to a restaurant, it was a Tex-Mex restaurant. And usually the same one, El Toro.
El Toro.
Yeah.
Well, why do you say for some reason they like Tex-Mex? It's like some of the best food in the world.
I know, but it was, I don't know the origin of their love for it is before my time, I guess. So.
And were these the dishes that you would always order when you went there as a kid?
Yeah, it was kind of like that the rice, beans, tamales, and enchiladas were the holy quadruple items.
And did you always have pork tamales, or what did you have?
You know, as far as I know, that's probably, back in those days, probably the only kind of tamale they made. And I would have either cheese or beef enchiladas, and the rice and beans were standard.
So tell me a little bit about your upbringing, because you mentioned you spent a bit of time in Australia. And, strangely in my upbringing, I spent a little bit of time in Texas, which is a strange inversion that we have
it is.
In common. But do you want to tell me a little bit about your childhood and how you ended up in Victoria for a bit?
Sure. So when I was born, my dad he's an electrical engineer, and he worked for the Lower Colorado River Authority. He wanted a bigger job. This one was kind of slim and as far as advancement went. So he found Alcoa Aluminum. I'm sorry, the company itself is the one that ruined the name of aluminium to aluminum.
To be aluminum.
Yeah. They left a letter out of the word on a brochure that they printed about the company, and they refused to change the brochure, so they changed the name instead.
Seriously?
Seriously. So you can blame my dad for this.
All right, I'll remember that because that comes up quite a bit.
So anyway, he moved us to this little town called Rockdale in central Texas, about 60 miles northeast of Austin. And so electrical engineering is a big part of this. And my dad had apparently been doing good in Rockdale. So they offered him the position for 2 years in Geelong. So he presented it to the family. I don't think we really had a vote, but he presented it as a family meeting, and we said, yeah, let's go. Where's Australia?
Let me ask you something, right?
Uh-huh.
Your last meal is every piece of Tex-Mex that is not a taco.
Right.
So tell me why you're called taco.
Well, that's not courtesy of anything of Texas or a restaurant, but courtesy of the U.S. Navy. And so I was a tactical pilot, first in an attack plane and then later in a fighter. And those kind of pilots always had a call sign. And the official reason was that you don't want to use your real name for, to compromise who you are and what your family is in a hostility. So the call sign became more than that. In fact, less than that. It became a way to either insult or charm or draw together the pilots of a squadron.
Okay.
You cannot give your own name. You can't make up your own name. People try and it goes badly for them. So it can be because of some play on words with your name, last name usually. Like we had a pilot in that same squadron called, his name was Gary Case and his call sign was Basket Case.
Got it. Yeah.
It can be for something you did. I had another friend, a more senior guy in the squadron, who tripped and fell, possibly due to inebriation, in Japan, into the sewer system, which is open trenches. And they're called Benjo ditches. So his call sign became Benjo.
So tell me who gave you yours?
Well, it didn't come from my name. It didn't come from anything I did. At sea, a few weeks after I arrived, we were having an all pilots meeting and doing a training session, like a Q&A training session about systems in the airplane that we flew. And a question was thrown out. The answer was given. It was wrong. And I knew it because I'd just come from the training squadron and where we'd memorized all this stuff. And the executive officer, who's this salty dog of a caricature of a salty naval aviator, turned around and he just looked at me and said, well, what do you think of that, Taco? And the whole ready room stopped and looked at the skipper or the XO and then looked at me and said, Taco.
Did the whole room erupt? Taco.
Not exactly. They were incredulous at first. And then they said, well, he's an Anglo, so it's going to stick like glue, which it did.
Tell me how you went from being a pilot to becoming an astronaut.
Well, first of all, as a kid and in my early days in the Navy, I had no interest whatsoever of being an astronaut because I wanted to be a pilot. And the rockets back in those days were the bean poles or telephone poles with no wings on them. It didn't appeal to me. I had no idea that there might be any kind of flying involved in it. So besides just loving to fly, wanting to fly, I had a strong desire to want to understand how airplanes worked, what the aerodynamics were that caused them to have bad habits and have good habits. So I applied to and finally got accepted to go to the Navy's test pilot school. And when I graduated, which was in 1979, it's a one-year course, it was the Space Shuttle had been conceived, and it was now a rocket with wings on it. And I learned through the grapevine that pilot astronauts for the Space Shuttle would have to be test pilots too. And I suddenly started putting things together a little bit that maybe I'm even qualified. In fact, I was more than qualified. So I put in an application And I got a letter and I got a phone call inviting me to come for an interview. And I thought, man, this is it. I'm in.
Do you know how fucking crazy that sounds? He said, well, maybe I'm qualified to be an astronaut. Well, I said, oh, yeah, it looks like I'm overqualified. Let's just apply. Do you know how mental that story is?
Really? True. So a group of us, also in a similar situation, made a trip down to Houston, went through the 1 week long interview process, and I didn't get accepted.
Really?
And then, in fact, I made such a gaffe in the interview process that I thought I would never be invited back.
And what was that? Can you share what that is?
It's kind of a story.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Is it where we're gonna? Is the food gonna go cold or what? Like, what kind of story are we talking about here?
Yeah, the food's gonna go moldy, probably.
Okay.
No, I was in the interview. It's a very intimidating interview situation. They put you in kind of a vertex of an L-shaped table, and so there are people all around you, kind of even behind you a little bit, and so you feel kind of isolated but they're just trying to get you to talk. Like I said, I had the qualifications. Everybody gets an interview has the qualifications, but the question is it someone we want to work with? Is what the board wants to know. So to find out, they want to get you talking, so they can sort of get a sense of your character and of your friendliness or any other problem that you might have. And I was very reluctant to talk. You had another question in your thing about what was the one thing that you wish you were better at when you were young? Mm-hmm. And that was being able to talk and relax. I still have an issue with that, by the way, but I certainly had an issue with that during the interview. And they said, well, and I would give one-word answers, and that's not what they wanted.
Yeah.
And so they kept easing me into it, and they said, well, tell us about your first years in the Navy. What kind of work did you do? And I said, well, my first job was to be a young officer that was in charge of about 20 of the youngest guys in the squadron, and these were the guys that we called plane captains. They took care of the airplane after you landed and before it was used again. And they said, well, did you have any problems? Was it challenging? And I said, oh, yes. And they said, well, what were some of the problems? I was going, what were some of the problems? And so reaching back, I inappropriately thought of the problem we'd have of guys wanting to get married when we go to a place like the Philippines, where there are a lot of girls that flocked towards the port when the ship would come in.
Yeah.
And they said, and then the room perked. Then I said, so the problem I had was keeping my guys from getting married in the Philippines. And looking back at it, I see how stupid that was.
Yeah.
But I didn't then.
Yeah.
But I did notice that the whole room perked up and said,
yeah,
we got him now.
We got him now.
And so we talked back and forth. I said, these are 19-year-old kids. Many of them never been kissed. And they get a woman that fawns on them and just treats them like kings. And, if they get married, it sometimes doesn't work out that well because it's during a 5-day port visit. You can't get to know someone well enough to marry.
You wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think so. So the Navy actually had policies in place where we interviewed the lady, we interviewed the guy, we made sure, so it took some time. And it was not well received by the young people. And I said, we tried to stop them from getting married in the Philippines. And that conversation went on for a few minutes. And then finally, one of the senior astronauts there, who had been in the Navy, so he knew the Philippines, he said, so was this in Olongapo that you're talking about? That was the name of the port. And I said, yes, sir. Have you been there? And the guy next to him said, yes, he was buried there.
You okay?
No.
After 5 days, or was it?
I don't know.
Okay. Bit of a
And
shock.
it wasn't really true.
Oh,
It was just,
he was
They
just ribbing you.
I think they were ribbing me, but they're also instructing me that be careful what path you go down.
That's a good point. Yeah. You never know to whom you're speaking, really.
Correct.
So be careful of what you say. That's a good lesson.
Yeah.
So when you eventually did become an astronaut,
10 years later.
10 years later, okay. Do you remember the first time you went to space? And obviously you remember the event, but do you remember it as an emotional experience? Do you remember what you were feeling?
Not emotional. There's not time for that, really. Perhaps it is for some people, but I drew a distinction over my years with NASA between people that had been in some sort of violent flying environment and people that had come from science or engineering or medicine. And so to the ones that had previous military flying, in particular in fighters, it was just a pretty big step, but just a step beyond the flying experience you'd had before. So, and I think that it turns out aviation is a fantastic analog for spaceflight.
Yeah. And
we stress for the people that don't come from an aviation background, we trained them to be a support person in the cockpit of the T-38s, which we had a large fleet of back then. So I think those of us that had been in aviation all our lives had it was more like, okay, it's a more big deal of an airplane. It's a fantastic airplane that can also go to space. But that's what it is.
Yeah. You think you're more prepared as a pilot? I mean, there's so many physiological aspects to it. I'm guessing G-forces and the knowledge of flight and all that sort of stuff that you're far more prepared than somebody who's just an engineer or medical or biochemist, whatever it is.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, so you said you took a lot of those people along with you on in planes as co-pilots. And what's their experience getting into a plane like that for the first time with you?
It varied, well, with anyone. It varied widely, that some of them took to it like a duck to water, and some of them were ill and disoriented and struggling. But if you give anyone like that some time, they'll eventually learn something from it.
So you said that there was no time for an emotional response, or at least you didn't remember having one when you first went up. But obviously, you're up there for a little bit of time. Was there any point when you're up there for the first time in space that you had to sort of pinch yourself and think, I am in a part of the universe that only a handful of people have ever been?
I'm glad you said the universe, because I want to give you some perspective to spaceflight in Earth orbit. Let's say in my beautiful and hilarious coffee cup, that the inside of the coffee cup is the diameter of the Earth.
Yep.
The outside of this rim is how high you are. We're very close.
Yes.
We're still in Earth orbit, very close to the Earth, still completely under the control of Earth's gravity. So your view is not one of the Earth as a disk, as the guys that went to the moon could see. Your view is a view of a gentle curve with about a 2,000-mile horizon. You can see a long way, but you can't see the whole Earth as a unit.
Yes.
It's like still flying an airplane.
Yeah.
Although it takes about 11 minutes to go from the west coast of the U.S. to the east. So it's a different kind of airplane.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Earth itself would fill up the entire frame of where you looked when you're looking towards it.
Sure.
And what, if anything, does that change about your perspective of Earth and even humanity downstream of that?
My perspective on being in orbit was that my geography was lacking, because the Earth does not have border lines drawn on it.
No
labels of countries and states.
Yeah.
You have to completely know your geography down to the lakes and rivers and sea coast outlines and landmass and what the land looks like.
Yeah, and also from a different perspective as well, quite literally, because you never look, maps when you see it are kind of this flattened out version of something that would otherwise be spherical.
That's true.
And so you're now looking at something that's wrapped, like a map wrapped around a disc, but a large disc.
It's similar to looking at a globe, as a map.
Yes.
Because the flat maps are very distorted, and therefore you don't have a clear grasp on them.
So looking towards the Earth made you realize how bad your geography was.
Yeah.
What about
it improved later?
Okay. Yeah, I bet it did. What about looking the other way out to space?
So it's not spectacular from the shuttle. It's about on a par to watching or looking at the stars in West Texas or other kind of desert. And the reason for that is we have a very narrow field that you can look at. So you can just see this little swath out of each window. And each window is triple pane. So it does the same job that atmosphere does of diminishing the light that gets to the eye. So it does actually, it's more dramatic to be in West Texas and look at the entire field of stars, and they have better brilliance because of the clear air and not humid air out in West Texas.
Yeah.
The guys that go outside for spacewalks, they have a single pane, a curved pane. It has a visor over it sometimes, but when it's up and it's dark out on the dark side, they get a fantastic view.
And time moves a bit slower, just a tiny bit slower up there, doesn't it?
Just millionth of a second difference.
Is that why you look so young?
You don't lie well.
Oh, okay. Okay, the reason I ask you about the perspective thing is I have very rudimentary versions of change in perspective when I'd been up in, let's say, the first time I went up in a helicopter. I've only actually been up once, and I went over Sydney, city where I live, and it really gave me a different perspective of the city because, as you said, you're viewing it from a completely, and it's not even like Google Maps, with a satellite view, even when things aren't demarcated as you stipulated before.
Yeah.
But I think just seeing something from that perspective with your bare eyes really made me think differently. And then the inverse of that, the staring outward, I understand that you haven't got the fantastic vantage point necessarily from inside a spaceship. However, isn't there something about staring into darkness that goes on, as far as we know, infinitely, that really makes you reconsider some of the big questions of life?
There were some very interesting things that did capture my imagination. And interestingly, one of them is over Australia, because you can see the aurora in the southern hemisphere better than you can in the northern hemisphere. For whatever reason, the southern hemisphere aurora australis is further away from the pole than in the aurora borealis. So we reliably would see the aurora over Australia and looking down towards the South Pole.
That'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
I still have never seen northern or southern lights. Actually, that's not true. When last year we were flying from New York to London, and it was down as low as that, and you could see it out of the window of the airplane. But for some reason, and I think I read about this at the time, you couldn't see it with the naked eye. But if you put your phone out and captured images, you could get because of the shutter speed, apparently.
Yeah, I think the phone can be a little better than your eye as far as the f-stop.
Yeah. Incredible that. Yeah. I do want to be able to see it with the naked eye one day. Have you ever seen it from Earth?
Yes. And it's pretty nice from Earth because going through the atmosphere, it picks up some other colors besides just green.
Yeah. You get those purples and all those types of things.
But it's just green from above.
Yeah.
And the other thing is your view of a meteorite is below you.
Sorry, explain what you're talking about.
So a meteorite only becomes viewable when it passes through
When
the
it burns
atmosphere
up, right.
and burns.
Yeah.
We're above the atmosphere, so we can only see them when they already go past us.
Oh, of course. Right. Yep. That makes sense.
And you look at it and say, well, that one missed us.
Can you talk me through the experience of being in space? How many times have you been to space?
5.
Only 5? That's a lot of times, isn't it?
There are 2 guys with 7 flights and probably half a dozen people with 6. I was promised a 6th flight if I would go to Russia and live a year as our liaison guy there.
Oh, really?
I went, I did, and then while I was there, Columbia crashed, and that restructured the whole crewing of the rest of the flights that we would do.
Okay. So you lived in Russia for a year?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Whereabouts in Russia?
Star City, which is in the suburbs of Moscow.
What was that like?
Wonderful.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've never been to Russia.
No.
I'd love to go.
It was a great environment. I found the Russian people, the people on the street, the people in the training facility that was there were just like hardworking Americans, Australians. Maybe with a work ethic was a little better than ours, more like ours, 50 years ago. Very delightful.
So the other day, I watched the splashdown of the 4 astronauts who came back, Butch and Sonny, more importantly, because they'd been up there for
9 months.
A little bit longer than they had intended to, let's just say.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. And I can't wrap my head around what it would be like to be weightless for 9 months or just any point in time and then come back to all the gravity that is Earth and the effect that has on your body.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk me through what that's like?
I've only seen it from the outside because I've never been off the planet for more than 18 days.
So what you're saying, that has no effect?
It has a little.
Yeah.
I mean, it has some. It's certainly on your first flight, you feel like it has a huge effect, but then your body learns, and the next time it's much better. Now, I carried home a crew from Space Station on my last flight that had been there 5 months. And they were, when they got into 1G and were sitting in their gurneys, just kind of feeling the weight of gravity was pulling, just dragging them to the ground.
Yeah.
They were greened. They were so ill from your balance organs stop working because there's nothing to sense.
Yeah.
And then when they get overloaded with the sense, as they get back into the gravity field, or they're in the gravity field, but as they feel it, it's pretty hard. It may take several days for them to be able to steadily walk.
On a more emotional note, I think when I was watching that splashdown, there was a pod of dolphins that came up around the pod.
Is that
I don't know
right?
if you saw it.
No, I didn't see
It was
that.
incredible. So you've got like the pod dragon, I think it was called, like bobbing in the water. And it takes about 30 minutes for all the boats to come and, hook it up and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, this pod of dolphins was just, it'd come to check it out.
Yeah.
And
how did this get here?
it was beautiful, but it was I felt like it was a really emotional moment because for somebody, a group of people that had been so disconnected from their planet for such a long time, making it back to Earth for one, which is dangerous, and then the welcoming committee of these earthly creatures like dolphins was just beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Did you ever have any kind of feeling of emotional relief when you got back to Earth? Because it's quite dangerous, and to be on solid ground again, what did that feel like?
Every landing I made was before Columbia crashed on entry, and we knew reentry and landing as the safest part. I mean, being on orbit was very safe, but we viewed entry and landing as safer than going up. So there was no fear involved in returning, just wonder. And on the last 2 flights, I was the guy that was going to do the landing, so I had my mind completely engaged on not screwing it up.
Yeah. Well, when you're coming back on re-entry, how hot does it feel when you're entering the atmosphere? Is that like being in an oven, or is it just like being here in Houston for a while, like for a day?
It's we chill the cabin with the air conditioner set to 0 for a day prior to entry.
Oh, wow.
And so the heat is mainly rejected by the tiles, the silicon tiles that are designed to be a great insulator. And only towards the very end of it, you might feel a sense of warmth getting into the cabin. And then when you land and you're sitting there for 30 minutes or so, it gets hot.
Yeah, right.
Typically more like close to 40 degrees Celsius in the cabin. We can't wait for them to get there and open the hatch so we can get some fresh air. Plus, a bunch of people, usually predominantly guys, for after 2 weeks in space and not a proper cleaning, the cabin does not smell nice.
I'll bet.
You don't want to open your visor.
What is an experience that you had in your life that was worth every cent?
Yeah, I like that question, by the way. The first one was my first solo in a jet. And being a wannabe pilot since of age 5, I had worked through in my mind exactly what flying would be all about, especially in a little plane. And my dad knew how nuts I was about airplanes, and he, for my 10th and 11th birthday, took me to Austin. We got a free ride he paid a free ride in a couple of different airplanes. And I just thought, and then the second ride, I was in the front seat, and the instructor allowed me to handle the plane, and I thought, I handled it, and I thought, this is just what I thought it was going to be. And so my first solo was in a little plane, a piston engine airplane. It's called the T-34. In the Navy, they called it the teeny weeny because it's not a jet.
It was a taco and a teeny weeny at that point.
I wasn't taco yet.
Yeah. The writing was on the wall, though, taco, I'm telling you.
Possibly. And so when I first took they give you about 12 rides in the teeny weeny before you solo. And then when you get to the jet, you get about 12 rides before you solo again. And the jet was a mind blower comparatively.
Yeah.
Just things happened so quickly, and the controls were so sensitive, you thought, I'll never get this. But then you do. And when I was off on my solo, my radio failed, which meant, kind of a emergency system or procedure. I was supposed to come back and land as soon as I realized I didn't have communication. I stayed out in the practice area, did aerobatics, did whatever. Took pictures with my little disposable camera that I'd snuck into the G-suit pocket.
Have you still got those photos somewhere?
Somewhere.
That'd be great to see.
Maybe I'll find them before you come over.
So tell me, is your life guided by any philosophy or religion?
Oh, yes.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I believe in God. I believe in His Word and what He's given to us through the various writers of the Bible. And I think it's a solid rock on which to stand.
Okay. And what faction of Catholic, Protestant, whatever it is?
Just a non-denominational Protestant. Those religions sort of turn the concept of the Bible, which is God is wanting to be in a relationship with His people that live here on the earth. And He desires to be in relations. He provided His Son to come here, and anybody that believes on Him is in the fold, and in that way can commune with God through Jesus. The religions like Baptists and Methodists seize on little aspects that are also written in the Bible, besides the central one that I just said, and make rules that you must obey. Baptists can't dance and drink. I like dancing. I like drinking.
Yeah.
And it's not prohibited in the Bible. That people got drunk all the time
Yeah.
in the stories in the Bible. So
Right. And so do you believe in a kind of reformist version of Christianity such that, well, interpretive, let's call it. You believe in the King James Bible, I'm guessing, but not in rules, denominations, and things like that.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So do you believe in an afterlife?
I do. Yeah.
Do you believe in the duality of a heaven or a hell?
What I understand, and I'm through about halfway through of a straight through read of the Bible now.
Oh, really?
But I've studied many sections in earlier days.
Mm.
So I believe there is a paradise, as the Muslims would call it, but with not the same, way to get there.
Yes.
And I believe that the opposite to that is a separation from God.
Okay.
And
So you think hell is a separation from God?
I think that's my interpretation.
Right. So you wouldn't necessarily classify it as, the traditional fire and brimstone type thing.
I just don't know.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know. None of us know, but it was just like what you believe in your heart.
I think that's a way to simplify it for certain people, but I think the real concept is God throughout the Bible says, if you rebel against me, you'll be cut off from me. And later, after Jesus came to be the ultimate sacrifice for all of us to get us in close communion with God, they didn't change that tone. They just said, if you don't believe, then you won't be part of me.
So what does heaven look like for you?
Well, there are a couple of words written about it that I've latched onto. I don't think there's all kinds of, there's description of streets of gold, but I'm not sure we're going to have to walk, So I'm not sure we'll need streets. So I think that what I've latched onto is you'll have wonder and you'll have a specialized way of transport that.
A specialized way of transport?
Yeah. Our wonder.
It sounds like whoever's running this is running for office or something. Like how much money we're going to put into this heaven thing?
We have a struggle putting unknowable things into human concepts.
That's true. Okay, well, let me rephrase that question. If you got to construct your own heaven, not by the way that the Bible defines it or any particular type of religion, but what does it look like to you? What would you create? Who would you be surrounded by? Where would it be?
Well, I try to craft who I'm surrounded by now. And you've met one of them, Rosemary, and you'll meet a few more at my house tomorrow. But what I see as far as transport goes is an ability to fly on your own. Maybe because I love flying so much.
Yeah.
An ability to just fly with your own body.
So heaven for you would be the ability to fly of your own volition.
Yes, and maybe maybe our bodies are going to be some sort of energy that is able to commune with God and His energy. I just don't know, but if it is, then I'll be able to fly at the speed of light, right?
Oh, good point. Being able to fly at the speed of light, that means we could get to Andromeda in 2 million years. That sounded really hopeful until I realized how stupid that sentence was.
Well, just the electrons of energy are going at approximately the speed of light. So to be in formation with God, we'd have to go that fast.
Oh, that's a very scientific way of explaining it.
Well,
I wasn't expecting that.
My partner's an electrical engineer. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Okay. What is something that you do differently to everyone else?
Well, I think my strong belief in God and His Word is not as common as you might think.
It's interesting you say that because when I interviewed a few atheists, they said something that they do differently is being an atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everybody thinks that whatever their religious belief is somewhat of a minority or a diminishing. Do you think being a Christian is diminishing these days?
Well, I think when I was a kid, I thought everybody was because everybody in my little town went to church somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you grew up in Texas, and yeah.
But it's not true anymore. So
Mm.
I think it's diminishing. 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have told you about my beliefs in God. And now I've got a more confident, less fear in me about expressing that.
That's interesting. Why up until just recently?
Well, I've had some changes in my life since flying in space, and things that made me see my own mortality. And those changes are that as you get older, you realize, okay, they're not going to let me fly a space shuttle much longer. And it maybe not let me fly anything much longer. And then I got diagnosed with blood cancer that at the time I got diagnosed, it was killing everybody. But over the next few years, they came up with some treatments. And before mine erupted into something terrible, I went through the treatments and got in remission. So that was great. It sort of took me a step back, says, okay, I really am mortal here.
Yeah.
And I stayed in remission for 10 years. And then I had a relapse in 2020. And so in these last few years, and also the treatment was much tougher on me at age 70 than it had been at age 59. And I realized, I need to get back to the basics, and I believed in life eternal, the afterlife, or life out of off the earth. I said, I want to examine that closer. I want to live closer to God. My New Year's resolution this year was to be closer to God. So, yeah.
Do you have any earthly versions of getting back to basics? Were there any parts of your life that you think you could have been neglecting that aren't faith related, but maybe with people surrounding you or something like that, or doing what you love?
Yeah, for sure. I used to be like every other fighter pilot, totally dishing people, just being sarcastic. Life with a fellow fighter pilot is rough.
Right.
Because we're always talking trash to each other.
Just like the movie Top Gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They got that part right.
They got that. Okay, yeah.
And so there was some words that Jesus spoke when he was on earth, and that was the Jews or who he was talking to, and the Jews had come up in the most strict kind of law-based religion you could imagine. In fact, Muhammad copied a lot of it into the Quran. And Jesus said, a new commandment I give you, and that is love one another. As I have loved you, you must love one another. And so it's not like I can just turn it off, but I'm working hard to love everybody, whether I like them or respect them, and to show love to everyone, not show humor at their expense or anything like that I used to do all the time.
Right.
So,
but you haven't lost your sense of humor. That's important.
I have a sense of humor, but I don't make it something that takes you down.
Right. Okay. And did that coming close to death, was that something that made you reprioritize how you spent your time? Do you, let's say, fly more than you did before then, or do you spend more time with friends, or what else floats your boat that you might have focused on more?
I think a big part of it is spending more time with the people I do love and that I'm close to. And I mentioned I had a relapse in 2020, and that was the year of the pandemic here. And I formed the closest friendships, people I already knew, but the closest friendships that you could imagine. We got together you'll see my hangar and our little private airport that we live on. We would get together every Friday night, and my partner, who was able to come and help me during the treatment, we got together outside. We'd sit a circle of chairs, maybe have a fire pit in the winter, And her rule was that everybody has to sit downwind of taco. So I don't get any germs on me, because my treatment took away my immune system.
Oh, yeah, it would have, right. Yeah, yeah.
And so we called it the Downwind Lounge. And those Downwind Loungers are still my closest friends.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you get COVID when you were in that immunocompromised state?
Nope. I got it later.
Okay.
After I was inoculated, but
yeah.
No, I didn't get a severe version of it.
That's good. That's lucky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I might let you put this the way that you want, but because I have an inkling, I know how you're going to answer this, but what makes you truly happy?
Oh, well, my happiness comes from God, and it is inside me. It's injected into me somehow. I'm not sure how that physically works. And so my happiness is not dependent, as it was before, on flying or having experiences that are pleasant or pleasurable. And that kind of happiness tends to taper off or evaporate when you haven't done something pleasant or fun. It's a joy that doesn't last. It's a wonderful joy. I mean, don't get me wrong. Flying to me and all the pleasures of that the earth can or the world can give you can be fun. They can be joyous, but you depend on being able to do those things for the joy.
Yeah, relying on them to provide you with happiness there's a time limit to, as you said, how long you're going to be able to fly.
Yeah.
You still fly now, though, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
There's only one real problem of flying now, and that is I have to pay for the gas. The government paid for it all the time up till then.
Oh. So you have to. You have a plane, don't you?
I have a plane.
Oh, you told me you have a plane and a half.
Yeah, you'll see.
Yeah. If I told you that next January 1st, you had to relive an entire year of your life and you got to pick what year that was.
Yeah, I like that question too. There was a year that was actually 20 months long where I got an assignment that wasn't flying. I was working, and it came at just the wrong time because I had flown a lot on the Midway in my A7. I went to test pilot school as a test pilot for 3 more years at the Navy's Test Center. I got to fly the F-18 when it was brand new. I was on the team that was breaking it in.
Cool.
And we were just on these and other guys like me were just on top of the world. And then the detailer, the guy that decides where you go next at the Bureau of Personnel in the Navy, said, "We need you to go be on an admiral's staff. You're going to go to sea, but you're not going to fly." And I said, I got angry. I called people. I tried to get out of it. I couldn't do it. I just didn't want to do it. And so I spent the time being angry that I was there. And I would rather go back and do it a better way, which would be, okay, it's not what I want to do, but let's do the best job I can.
But you did do it at the time.
I did do the job.
It was just the attitude that you had that you would have changed.
My attitude was terrible, yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that's something that has gotten better with time?
Yes.
Yeah. You have a better attitude now?
Well, they sent me to Russia, and I went.
That's true, yeah.
And I went willingly.
But they were dangling the carrot of the 6th space tour, to be fair. Okay, I want to round this up before I let you eat any food because I realize that this is getting cold.
So we're going to talk about the last meal.
We're going to talk a bit about the last meal, yeah. If this was your last meal and you got to choose the people with whom you shared your last meal, who would you elect to be those people?
The Downwind Loungers.
Oh, the Downwind Loungers, of course, yes.
So we have Debbie Gary, who is an air show pilot, one of the first women air show pilots. She's 78 years old now. There's Rosemary, who you met. There's Noreen. There's my older son, who was a Downwind Lounger because he was living with me during that time. My younger son, I would love to have there. And Patrick, I would have there too, because he's like a son to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. He needs me.
Yeah. And what if you were able to choose the location, the context in which you would enjoy a last meal with these people?
Oh, it'd definitely be in my rundown kitchen
Yeah?
at my house. Yeah.
You would have it in your kitchen
Yeah.
with those people.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the kinds of conversations you would want to be having with them? If you all knew that the world was going to end, this was all your final days, what are the kinds of conversations you'd want to have?
Oh, I think I'd want to have my arms around them and tell them what I know and what I think they should know too. Someplace to go after the world ends. Through the love of God.
Somewhere where you can fly.
Yes. That's kind of selfish, but yeah.
If you had a final message to leave your loved ones after you go, if they were to remain on, what would that be?
Love each other just like you love yourself. And don't forget to do that too.
What do you think the last thing you would like to hear yourself before you go is?
Go reserve us a place where you're going. I want to see you again. Yeah.
Maybe heaven is like Chelsea's.
I've had some very pleasant experiences here.
Taco, thanks so much for sitting down and speaking with me. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. I'm now going to heat you up some of this food, and I'm going to try some with you because I want you to know that I didn't poison it, because this is called Last Meal. I didn't want you to think that...
They're going to make it come true.
That's right. Kenneth Taco Cockrell is someone I'm proud to call a friend. Although we may have different ideas on the universe, its creator, and the afterlife, there's far less daylight between our values than our beliefs. Taco's underlying humility, his salt-of-the-earth charm, and loyalty to those he holds dear contradict preconceived notions of those who have gone where few men have gone before. Taco may dream of heaven as the freedom to fly, but from where I'm standing, he's already been there. And that's all from me.
Cheesy.
Tomatoes and green peppers in with the enchilada filling.
Uh-huh.
And then obviously beef, onion, garlic, cumin, paprika. And then the cheese mix is, obviously we've got Monterey Jack in there. Got some orange American cheese. We've also got some queso quesadilla and queso something else. Starts with an A. I forget.
Let's get these open too.
Have you got a good tolerance for heat?
Fair.
Yeah. What about spice?
Fair.
Okay. This shouldn't be spicy. Oh, man. I can't wait to try these tamales because I didn't make them.
We'll be practicing.
Oh, hell yeah. Rita knows what she's doing, huh?
She does. Yeah, that's very good.
Oh.
Now for your
That's all in the
enchiladas.
masa, yeah. I love that. What do you think?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Did well?
Can't talk, I'm busy.
I'd be happy with this as a last meal. People often ask me what my last meal is, and I don't tell them because I'll tell you, but I'll tell you off camera. I'll tell you tomorrow night.
Okay.
But I don't want to reveal what my last meal is to anyone on this show because I feel like then it's just...
It would deflate it somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want to keep them guessing. But this would be good. I would be happy with this one as a last meal.
Well, if we ever chose to do our last meal together, we know what would work.
That's true. Yeah.